What's up, guys? This is Seven from Surrender Stella, and today we're going to talk about reamping guitars. So when we reamp guitars, what we do is we take a DI, meaning that we plug the guitar directly into the interface in the computer, into my Apollo 8. And then I will edit the guitar in Pro Tools, or I'll edit the guitar track in Pro Tools. And then after I've done that, I'm going to send the signal back out into the reamp radio box. There's actually going to be a link in the description below for this box. You can buy it from Amazon. It's like 120, 130 bucks. This is like one of the most useful tools for recording guitars that I've ever seen. Why it's so useful is when you are recording guitars with microphones, the waveforms that appear in Pro Tools are like flat. You know, there's no really top or bottom. You can't see the transients. A transient is, when someone strums the guitar. You can't really see that in a amp recording. But in a DI recording, you can see it very well. So when it comes down to producing a final product, editing amp recorded guitars is very difficult. It can be done. It's very difficult. But this makes it 10 times easier. So what I do is I take the DI, I edit it, and then I send it from my Apollo interface into the reamp box, out of the reamp box into the guitar amp, and on the guitar amp I have two microphones recording, and those microphones record back into my interface, and it prints in Pro Tools a perfect track. So I don't have to do any more editing after that. It's 100% ready to go. So we're going to show you that process today, and I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys how to reamp guitar tracks. So first things first, what we need to do here is these three tracks here are the DI tracks that Grim recorded for our song Hey Victim. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this first track real quick, and we're going to hit, first we're going to go in here, we're going to hit polyphonic. This enables elastic audio by Pro Tools so that we can move around the transients, the down and up strokes that you played on the guitar. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select warp so we can adjust this stuff. Then we're going to come in here and start taking all of our things. These are really good, close, very close stuff. We're just going to inch those over just like a little bit more, just to get everything really tight. So when we go to print this thing, it sounds excellent. So we're going to keep going here. Looks good. Put that over. Okay, so now that we're done editing that, so the whole song's edited now, and all we need to do is check a few things first. Okay, so the first thing I want to check is, so in my console here, when I recorded this song, I had my preamp set to -10 because that's what I had to do in order to make sure that the transient was at a good level, so that it wasn't clipping or anything like that. So what I do next is I add 10 decibels back into the track. So when it goes out of my reamp box into the amp, it's going to hit the amp at the same decibels that the guitar would have if there wasn't any of this stuff, if none of this had been done to it. So how I check that, just to make sure nothing clips, is I run my tracks to an auxiliary track. I'm going to duplicate it so I don't mess it up, in case I got to do this again. Now I have them routed to bus 21, which is this auxiliary track. So that means all the audio is flowing through this track. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to commit, and it's going to show me what my audio looks like after I have sent it to the amp, to make sure that there's no clipping on the way to the amp, that everything looks good. See all these transients? They're all pointed. There's no flat tops. Everything looks real good. That means we're good. And another thing we can do is listen to the whole thing straight through, and then go and then look at the fader right here in the in our mix window, or our mix window, and which is this one, and make sure that we have no clipping, like this never goes over 0. So anyway, what we're going to do next is we're going to delete that. That was just a checking thing. Now we're going to reroute this to output A line 7, because that is where I have my reamp box connected to my interface. So then looking at the reamp box right here, on the input it gives me a +4 decibel line. So I want to make sure, I'm going to open up my console program here, and sorry, OBS is I'm doing this in 1080p. I usually do this in 4K. Anyways, I'm going out line 7, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Look at my reference level. Make sure that the reference level is aligned with what the reamp box requires. That's +4, so we're good. So then what we're going to do now is we're sending all these tracks to the reamp box by routing it to line 7. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to these tracks, because these tracks represent my microphones, which if you look at the top left of the screen, you can see my guitar amp, and there's 2 microphones on that amp, an SM57 and an AKG microphone. So what I'm going to do next is arm the tracks so they're ready to record, go back here, and then when I'm ready, I'm going to record this section here, and then this section, and then this section. And so how this is done, this would be really cool, but okay, so after we've checked the auxiliary track to make sure that there's no clipping on the way into the amp, I just did a test run with my mics to gain stage my preamps, which are, this is done in the console, in UAD's console. So I have the 610B preamp on the SM57 and one on the AKG 314, I believe. So anyways, what you want to do here is adjust the gain on the console to be relatively the same level on both mics. I usually try to record around -18 decibels on the way into Pro Tools, because that gives me plenty of headroom to mix later on, and also you want, like I said, I want to get them relatively close to -18, like where the peak is hitting at -18 on both microphones. I can't really show you this because of this microphone and the amp being in the same room. It just wouldn't work because it would be too loud and everything. So for this mic. Anyway, but that's this step, and after this step, we're ready to record the final take. So all we got to do now, the amp is turned on, the mics are on, everything's hot, we're ready to go. All we got to do is just hit F12, which will record the part. Now I'm going to mute this mic while this happens, so that because I'm in the room where the amp is, so it's going to mess up the audio on this microphone. So I'm going to mute it, and I'm going to show you in Pro Tools how this goes. Okay, so now that that section is done, we're going to do the next section and this middle section too. So the next section is going to be on the same tracks, and the middle section I'm going to do on 2 different tracks, just because they overlap a little bit and I don't want to lose that overlap in the final track. So I'm going to mute the mic again, do this last part, and then do this real quick, and then we'll take a look at see the finished track. Alright, now we're going to unarm these tracks, arm these tracks, and we're just going to get this little middle part real quick. So, muting the mic once again. See, I made a mistake there, and that's why it was important to show you guys that. So what I should have done here was muted this track and muted this track, so that this is the only one to play through my reamp box. So I'm going to delete these and do this one more time. Mute this mic. Alright, so now we go in here and look at this. Let's zoom in a little bit. So if you'll see on the DI track how obvious all that. So if we go to like warp, and that shows you where I moved everything, these markers, how obvious everything is, where all the transients are. If I was to go into this one, I can barely even see where any of the transients are because the waveform is so flat. So it's a lot more difficult in here to find those transients. But if you were to play this against the click track, this thing is in time, it's ready to go, it's a finished recording of the guitar track. So that, you know, it makes it so much easier to do it this way. And that's the way I've been doing it lately. So thanks for watching me do this. So guys, that's how it's done with the Radial reamp box. Once again, there's a link in the description if you guys would like to pick up one for yourself. And if you have any questions about how this is done or how to do this with a different software besides UAD, please just leave a comment and I'd be happy to point you in the right direction. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.